This is a video that will probably immediately be disproven in the coming weeks, but my thoughts about Kenjaku's current status has me spiraling into a sea of different theories that I need to get out. The entire length of the video will consist of multiple different possibilities that Kenjaku's quote-unquote death could present for the series, and ultimately hope to explain what exactly is meant by Kenjaku's will being carried on or inherited, and who specifically that will be inherited by. Potentially at the end of this video, we will have fully understood the agreement behind Kenjaku and Sukuna and have a full explanation for their cooperation despite the opposing goals they have. So I promise, if one part of this video doesn't speak to you, the other 3 to 4 perspectives of how the future of Jujutsu Kaisen will go may. So there will be a payoff at the end of this discussion. I sincerely appreciate you all watching this video. Please hit that like button if you enjoy content like this, and if you subscribe, you will definitely see plenty more of it. Thank you very much for watching, and enjoy. In chapter 243 of the manga, after the conclusion of Kenjaku and Takaba's ridiculous comedy battle, the main reason the comedian was sent after the main villain of the whole series was revealed. After the foreshadowing of how specifically Kenjaku was monitoring both Yuta and Maki, all the way to Takaba and Kenjaku both looking for partners and friends and ironically finding that in each other, it results in Kenjaku realizing he has no choice but to beat Takaba at his own game and go fully into the simulation with no distractions, keeping Kenjaku preoccupied just long enough for Jujutsu High's new number 1, Okkotsu Yuta, to pull up on the brain before he even has time to react, not only slashing and decapitating the brain quick enough before his anti-gravity reversal can defend him. This potentially gives Okkotsu better speed feats than Yuki Tsukumo's black hole, but that's a whole nother video entirely. Upon being reduced to a rolling head, Kenjaku surprisingly is pretty comfortable with these results. As the scene focuses in on his skull, eyes growing bloodshot, Kenjaku explains confidently his will be inherited. And to be fair, this could potentially be the most climactic moment of Jujutsu Kaisen. We are so close to the end, and I really want to explain why this could be what fully transforms Kenjaku into the real final villain he was always meant to be, or even more out of left field, set up the stakes for an entirely new final villain to emerge and take the final stage. Someone who could have been pulling the strings all along, and I think we all know who that might be. But first, the most obvious point of Kenjaku's quote-unquote death that I will, until confirmation, be leaving between air quotes, at least until the truth is revealed at the end of this video, is something that was mentioned way back in Hidden Inventory. After the ass-whooping hand-delivered to Suguru Geto by Fushiguro Toji, the Sorcerer Killer remarks the only reason he's letting the Jujutsu High student live is because, with Curse Spirit Manipulation as Geto's innate technique, Toji theorized it's possible all of the curses at Geto's disposal might erupt in one large chaotic storm. Yuta killing Kenjaku in such a manner could result in multiple special grade curses bursting from the corpse. And with him just being a brain from the very beginning, what stops it from being transported while Kenjaku maintains control of all the curse spirits? The technique is stored in the brain after all. This opens Kenjaku up to transportation to his next vessel, but that's the next segment. Going deeper into this whole curse spirit pandemonium that would be unleashed from Kenjaku, think of some of the monsters the brain has had lying in wait to use for the main event. He pulled an unknown special grade out against Takaba, so what else could be lying in wait? The Ganesha curse was a terrifying threat. Perhaps even something like the 3 vengeful spirits could have been manipulated by Kenjaku, considering he's a sorcerer of over thousands of years old with knowledge of burial grounds and ancient history. But more importantly, a character who has been under Kenjaku's control due to curse spirit manipulation is someone that was on our side not too long ago. Lord Tengen, the immortal tree, would potentially be released from Kenjaku's control, depending on if the brain is actually dead or not, right? And this leads me to a potential theory on what Kenjaku could mean by his will being inherited. as Tengen has always been a suspicious, looming enigma in the background, confirmed to be hiding secrets from the main cast since the beginning. Tengen could have ended the culling game from the very beginning and stopped the Brain's plans by releasing his 4 Jokai barriers that exhibit the base for all barrier techniques in the country. By shattering their own hold over Japan, Tengen could have finished Kenjaku's from the start. Instead, Tengen chose to risk the lives of young sorcerers to do their bidding and stop the Brain the hard way, ultimately getting themselves taken prisoner and giving Kenjaku exactly what he wanted to accomplish. Maybe Tengen was fully corrupted and shot off course even from all the way back in hidden inventory, and with no star plasma vessel to keep Tengen's personality in check, the Lord Tree could become Kenjaku's successor, a mere puppet set off to complete the merging plan with a brand new goal in mind. The being that brings the land of Japan its sorcery is now the enemy. However, when most people consider Kenjaku getting a successor, a lot of people always are going to assume it's him himself. After spending 1,000 years and only being a few days, if that, away from achieving his life's goal, isn't it a bit hard to believe Kenjaku is just dead and gone? With one of the biggest themes to come out of Kenjaku vs. Takaba being the connection and unironic bond the two of them formed through comedy. This could be one of the worst ways for Takaba's all-powerful comedian technique to come back and bite the protagonist in the ass. And another way for Angel to fumble the bag. People have theorized a heavy blow to the main cast would be Takaba's comedian backfiring. Before the fight was over, many thought Takaba could unironically start the merger just by thinking it, or even making Kenjaku more powerful or helping him in some way. But with Kenjaku looking for an inheritor of his will, maybe that bond the two of them formed is just what the Brain needs to take Takaba over. In exchange for one of his background curse techniques, Kenjaku could potentially hop from the dead Geto Suguru into a freshly new sorcerer with the curse technique to genuinely impose your imagination on not just others, but the world itself. For a villain whose sole purpose is to create untamed chaos not even the world itself can contain, the rambling imagination of Kenjaku's famous Yapper Brain is not something the world should ever have to deal with. So turning the gag character into the villain would just be the least expected outcome of how Takaba vs. Kenjaku could have went, and unpredictability is Gege's strong suit. The most likely thing to happen is always what doesn't happen though, which opens crazy possibilities if Kenjaku truly means that his will being inherited means his brain changing bodies. Imagine the corpse of Gojo is now ripe for the taking and being repaired for Kenjaku as we speak. Or something even more off the wall, like Toji Fushiguro's body's been preserved and waiting for this moment Edo Tensei style. Or even worse, being a cursed object that Kenjaku helped create, Sukuna could have been a sleeper agent for Kenjaku to body hop into this entire time, completing the entire villain cycle and closing it in one final bow for the last big battle against Kenjaku, now in Sukuna's Heian era form. And although most of these might as well just be headcanons, even some options like Toji and potentially Gojo already being disproven due to innate features of their body making them unviable for Kenjaku's technique. However, the whole cursed object thing being a Kenjaku contingency plan is something I want to dive deep into a little bit. However, there is another body at the scene right now that I know plenty of you are considering Kenjaku might take as well. Okkotsu Yuta, one of Jujutsu High's last remaining hopes, is also within range of the dying Kenjaku, so we have to weigh the possibility of him being a vessel as well. Despite all the shit that Kenjaku has talked throughout the series about him, Yuta made good on his promise and was the one to potentially end Kenjaku's reign of terror. Wink. But unlike Gojo or Toji, Okkotsu is genuinely free game. With one of the highest levels of cursed energy in the verse and the ability to copy cursed techniques, a trick that would nab him comedian as well anyway, Kenjaku may even gain access to the smoke demon formerly known as Rika by this body hop. Although in my honest opinion, eliminating Yuta from the protagonist crew is just unrealistic. Why? Because frankly, they need all the help they can already get against Sukuna, so their numbers need to increase. not decrease. And speaking of increasing numbers, my most cooked up and invested conclusion to what will happen with Kenjaku has everything to do with Sukuna and Kenjaku's relationship and their binding vows / cursed object agreements I've been hinting at since the beginning of the video. In multiple occasions, Kenjaku and Sukuna have had more than enough time and opportunities to turn on each other. In fact, when Gojo was first unsealed, there was next to no reason for Sukuna to jump in and defend the brain. In my opinion, the merger eliminating every single innocent person from Japan goes against Sukuna's hedonistic desires to be able to subjugate and torture humans at his own will. So, Sukuna's devotion to the merger definitely does not explain his alliance with Kenjaku. In fact, it's heavily implied that Kenjaku is the one that taught Sukuna how to become a cursed object after death, potentially causing Sukuna to be indebted to the brain for bestowing him with knowledge to transcend life itself like all the other Culling Game players. Although something that even Angel noted about the King of Curses when it came to his binding vow as opposed to the other incarnated players, every single reincarnated sorcerer required Kenjaku's help to become a cursed object. However, Sukuna, after doing it the first time, was able to completely recreate the technique himself, performing it a second and even third time later when possessing Megami. This also coincides with the fact that Sukuna was able to split his soul into multiple cursed objects, all containing separate facets of Sukuna's power. Everyone is theorizing Kenjaku will body hop to continue his quote-unquote will. However, perhaps they're missing the most important piece to this puzzle. Why would Kenjaku just take one body when, after allying himself with Sukuna, Kenjaku was able to split his brain, his own personal cursed object, into multiple different pieces just like Sukuna? This opens up multiple different doors for the brain hop curse technique, as instead of just one character being Kenjaku's new vessel, we could have multiple Kenjakus running around in different locations, causing problems with different techniques and different power levels. Characters that have all been missing from the story can return, like maybe Geto's family members dedicating themselves to carrying on Suguru's will, which results in almost like a Six Paths of Pain kind of deal with Kenjaku that expands his power and will. But let's consider a couple even worse options, shall we? Kenjaku mentions at the very beginning of this stupid survivor mini arc that he has a connection to every single reincarnated player, enough so that Kenjaku can track them all down and knows where they are at all times. Following up on my Sukuna claim of him being a potential Kenjaku vessel due to the cursed object origins, that could potentially hold true for every reincarnated Culling Game player. Every remaining MIA player, Oro, Daido, Mayo, could grow stitches and become Kenjaku puppets. Maybe even awakened sorcerers fall prey to the subjugation as well. An entire army of Kenjakus with different techniques all marching to defeat the protagonists. Imagine Higuruma mid-battle with Sukuna becoming a Kenjaku vessel, with Kenjaku essentially playing a part in every awakened sorcerer through idol transfiguration. He literally messed with their brain stems. Who says this can't be done? Putting a pin in that, if I was to bring this one fatal step further, if the connection to becoming one of Kenjaku's chosen vessels at that point is just being idol transfigured, dare I say, what if characters that have been on recovery and missing from the story since being idol transfigured, hint hint, Todo or Nobara, have specifically been absent from the story because they've already been turned into Kenjaku vessels? Meaning the final arc of the story will just consist of us battling our former friends all succumb to Kenjaku's control with stitches on their heads, fighting to achieve the end result of the Culling Game and bring about the merger. All of these new puppets inherited Kenjaku's will, carrying his dream on to the end, even if the original brain is no longer around to see it, as the main personality would probably be gone after this, split between too many vessels to maintain its original shape. Anyway, guys, I've tortured you enough with all of these crazy theories. If I'm having this much fun thinking about what the fuck could come about just from Yuta cutting off Kenjaku's head, I can only imagine what Gege feels watching all of us reel and wait to see what comes next. Thanks so much for watching to the end, guys. Leave a like if you enjoyed, comment below if you have your own theory, subscribe if you want more content like this, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.